Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. Well, that's a name I haven't heard in a couple episodes.
I mean, they have.
No, I haven't.
I know.
Because I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I ditched this bitch.
Wow. But you came crawling back.
Oh, please take me back. No one else will let me produce for them.
I mean, or let you on mic.
More important.
I think a lot of people would let you produce.
That's true. Yeah. The problem is producing in this day and age means you're also on mic.
I mean, a lot of times. That does happen a lot, actually. A lot of producers have been like bumped to like co-host on a bunch of shows that I listen to. Co-host or frequent guest.
Looking at you, how did this get played?
Well, that, Ben on Blank Check.
Yeah.
Emma on Doughboys.
Yeah.
A lot of producers getting the bump to the mic.
Look how...
And you probably before all of them.
That's right.
They're copying, it's the Richard model.
Yeah, where you start in it as a ludicrous character and then slowly...
What?
Huh? Or when you find the ineptitude of a host and have to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, you have to absorb them like a twin in the womb.
No, you're still around. What are you talking about?
No. I've never been the inept one. Other than socially.
And physically.
What do you mean physically inept?
If anything, there's too much of you.
I mean, I could probably still do more push-ups than you.
Do you want to do the run thing again? Do you remember having the last?
I don't want to run. I didn't say I could beat you at running. That's not the only metric of physical aptitude.
Yours eating.
Just the inherent strength in me. That's all I've got.
I'm gonna carry this
no
around.
Cardio, just.
If anything, you're probably stronger than you ever have been.
I mean, yeah.
Pure, just like carrying all that weight, you know?
and the rage.
Oh yeah,
so much rage,
and just the crushing blow of life, just like pushing down on you
like a diamond. The pressure of it all has formed something beautiful.
It's like you've been training for like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Molded by it.
Oh my God! Don't start doing that because then I'm going to want you to talk about mundane things now. I want more. I want more Harley Quinn.
I will be this credit card's reckoning. Fucking love Bane on that show.
It's very good.
One of my favorite parts of that show.
Very, very good. Well, each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
That's right.
So what we do on this show.
That is what we do.
Yeah.
Usually after a little bit of a break between introducing ourselves and talking about other things.
Yeah.
Then we'll come back and
if we feel like it.
Yeah, we might answer your question.
Yeah. Ghostfacers is getting less and less about the show.
This week's episode of Ghostfacers, I think, has more tangents
than we've ever
had before. And none of them are related to each other.
Or the show.
No, at all. We had Casey Kasem. We had U2. We had Pirate Con.
Which came from the words pie retcon.
Yes, yeah.
You were like, hold on. Hold my beer.
Oh, boy.
You want to talk about Batgirl?
Yes. Yeah, we're recording this on Tuesday evening.
Yes.
Just with scheduling things, and I wasn't feeling good yesterday.
And shut up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so the news came out today that Warner Brothers is shelving Batgirl, a movie that is just about done.
Yeah.
And about $100 million in.
Jesus.
And but like shelving.
Yeah.
So it's not just going to HBO Max. They're not like pulling back from, it's not going anywhere.
This is that Prince movie that never came out. Yeah.
It's just not coming out.
Which is, I don't know how often that happens.
I just saw a quote from like an anonymous like studio exec in a different studio that was like, I've worked here for 3 decades. I've never seen shit like this.
Really?
Because the movie's basically done. So
it must either be a complete piece of shit.
Well, so here's the thing. I'm just going to say the things as I heard them in order. I don't know at which point any of these things were verified, if they were.
Sure.
But the initial thing was, it was about cost savings.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers Discovery was like
the cost to like promote this thing.
Because the marketing costs never get rolled in really to the cost of this. So they were like, it's a cost savings thing. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because even if you put it on HBO Max, you'll get subscriptions that you don't already have.
Yeah.
Making some dollars must be better than making none dollars.
Yes.
The next thing I heard was they want their DC films, like as a brand, to be big theatrical experiences. Batgirl, admittedly, was when they greenlit it was for HBO Max, and then they were like, and we'll release it theatrically.
Yeah.
And so what they were saying was it's too big to be cost effective on HBO Max. Again, I would argue that some dollars is better than none dollars.
Yeah. That's not an excuse to not release.
And then also, but they were like, but it's not big enough for the screen.
Okay.
I still think fine, even if you give the bone of it's not big enough for the big screen, which I think is bullshit.
Yeah.
Still put it out on HBO Max.
Yeah. What are you hurting?
You spent like $400 million on Justice League. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then the last piece that I heard was that it had started testing. Some shots weren't, like VFX things weren't done yet, but they were starting to do test screenings, and it tested so poorly that it couldn't possibly be released. I got my doubts it's that bad.
Okay, they would also just do some reshoots.
I've got my doubts it's that bad. And also, they release horrible shit all the time.
Yes.
Not just in DC, but like they've released fucking Crimes of Grindelwald and like all sorts of boring ass bad movies.
Yeah.
You know, like the first Suicide Squad. So many bad movies. Justice League.
Yes.
The theatrical one.
Like
you know
unless
what I mean?
unless they like the entire plot is surrounded around like how great child molesters are. Like I can't imagine a thing where it could be bad.
Obviously Twitter is exploding.
Yes.
It's hard to parse what is true or how true these things are. It might be a slight combination of a bunch of things. Maybe this movie just isn't spectacular. Again, like,
who gives
just release it anyway. It's fine.
How many Garfields
we'll probably
did you
like
make?
it. You know what I mean? Like, well, yeah, exactly. Like all that kind of bullshit. But a lot of people are very rightly pointing out that it's like a lot of bad movies get released all the time. Bad movies that cost too much and have to go back for reshoots and are not cost effective and stuff like that. But this is the one that had a woman of color as a lead, had a trans supporting character, and had persons of color directors.
Yes.
So I wonder what's different about this project. You know, I don't like to jump to the racism, sexism dog whistle, but like
if the shoe fits,
a lot of other movies come out under worse circumstances with more forgiveness.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Also, even if you take for granted all of these things, let's imagine every single thing, the excuse they gave is right. It costs too much. It's not cost effective. The movie's bad. We want our brand to shift in a different way. Yeah. It's a sunk cost.
It's gone.
You put it out and you go, yeah, I know. We were in the middle of a merger and we're changing directions, but that's the last of
there's a
the
file sitting on
there.
your thing. What harm does it to just put it up?
That's the thing. I kind of can't believe it got shelved. Now, you and I talked about this a bunch today.
Yeah.
I have my own unsubstantiated conspiracy theory, which is that I think they want to move to shelve The Flash, which has become like such a PR poison pill with everything Ezra Miller's been doing / terrorizing.
Yes.
Keaton is obviously in The Flash. Keaton was also in this Batgirl movie. And this Batgirl movie also had J.K. Simmons as Gordon. So, like, it's very obvious that the end of the Flash movie was going to set up, like, let's get Batfleck out of there now. We got Keaton in as elder statesman, and now we can move forward. So we have pieces from the DCEU, pieces from this other thing, and this is our new thing. And I think they want to shelve the Flash, and that means they got to scrap anything connected to that.
Wow.
I mean, that's my thought.
Yeah, the only thing is like
I still don't. I mean, I actually think they should scrap the Flash, even though that movie is way more dollars in, and just release Batgirl, and we'll just be like, whatever, it's Keaton. Something happened and we missed it.
Yeah,
like I would rather that than what's currently happening. But I bet you that's part of the studio thinking behind this.
Jesus.
That's my take on it, but I am pissed because I was excited about it. Brendan Fraser as Firefly.
Yeah, that's the big
Leslie Grace as Batgirl. The suit looked great. I was excited for it.
Man, what a disappointing fucking turn of events.
Let's imagine the movie is like meh. I still want to see a Batgirl movie.
Yes. Yes.
Like, I don't give a shit. I watch meh movies all the time.
Yes, you keep watching the original Suicide Squad.
I don't keep doing it, but I did do it again. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of we may never get the whole story because it's outrageous that $100 million in it's quote more cost effective or whatever, or be like it would damage the DC brand too much. Like, did you see the Snyder like everything?
Yeah. Like how much did it cost to put that thing out, right? Like
yeah. I mean, I mean it's crazy. So I don't know. I'm pissed.
Wow, and that's rare for you.
Because what the fuck?
Yeah.
People work hard on movies, and also, again, all of the things that we've said already, Woman of Color, a fucking Batgirl movie. It was going to have Alicia Yeoh, a trans character, in there prominently, like there's shit I want. Brendan Fraser, the Renaissance.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things I wanted that we're just not getting. It'd be one thing to be like, and they're not releasing it theatrically, whatever, but we'd still get to watch it. But the idea that it's like all these people, crew and cast and writers and everyone, put all this work in, and it's just going to not exist. It's just going to not exist. So that later, inevitably, if not like soon later, like 20 years later, it'll just get... They'll be like, hey, look what we pulled from the Warner vault.
Yeah.
Like...
The only sort of...
It's such bullshit.
Remaining option that I have...
Even if it's bad, just release it. I want it.
That's the only remaining consideration that I have in my mind is that, like, maybe this is a PR stunt and they're just going to release it. And
I mean, I can't imagine it's a good idea as a PR stunt.
Oh,
for a few reasons. One, making your fans angry at you and then giving them the thing they want.
Snyder.
Well, I know it'd be a weird lesson to take from the Snyder.
They were like, when we got everybody really mad,
that was an accident, but we could manufacture this.
Does that feel like a thing that Hollywood wouldn't do?
I will say it's not the most insane conspiracy theory. Even saying it out loud, I was like, oh, they would totally learn the wrong lesson from this. But even if that is the case, to do in the context of not having announced that you're shelving The Flash, a movie whose star is kidnapping and abusing people or whatever is happening.
Yes. Allegedly.
Allegedly, whatever. Oh God, they're here.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm actually pissed about it. I saw someone very rightly say, like, this is the movie we need a campaign for.
Yeah.
And I agree. Provided, of course, that it's about seeing the movie. That the campaign is about releasing the movie and not about like harassing executives and whatever the shit.
Yeah, that's just a benefit.
The Snyder cult was doing, Don't become them, but certainly, yeah.
If it works.
Hashtag release Batgirl. You know what? I'll say this. Warner Brothers Discovery, if you're listening, until you release Batgirl, we will continue releasing regular episodes of our podcast.
Yeah. And if you do release the movie, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. We will continue to unleash our content unless our demands are met.
Yes.
And even then, maybe.
Hashtag last year the podcast. Well, with that, why don't we talk about
bad
this week's
mood
theme? Maybe that'll make you in a better mood. Talk about this week's theme.
Alien gods.
Yeah. Hey, we know about those.
Talking about non-Earth deities.
Your new gods, your old gods.
a number of them, but not all of them.
Yes.
Yeah, just thought it'd be like a slightly weird, specific thing to dive into. There's not necessarily like mountains and mountains of characters that fall into this category, but there's a few, and it's kind of an interesting idea because obviously so many stories are Earth-centric for obvious reasons. And then even when you go into space, not many of those stories then bend back to what are the beliefs of other planets.
Yeah.
So to have like a few layers to that is kind of interesting.
Totally.
And we actually got a decent number of questions.
Yeah,
for this, so.
I was surprised. Why don't we jump into them?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Well, we're first going over to Facebook.
Going to the face and the book. Going to the Facebook.
First question comes from Chad Bokelman,
Bogle,
who asks, which gods in the DCU are the same, i.e., what we consider God on Earth and in DC is called the Presence. Does that god also claim other names on other worlds? Is Rao the same god as Hronmir, for example?
Right. Interesting. So there are examples of this. So let's go through it.
Okay.
I don't know that I can think of a specific example where the Presence shows up to a different alien and the alien goes, "Oh my God, it's Greg," or whatever their god is called. Like,
all hail Greg.
But there is an example of that kind of encounter happening with Dream of the Endless.
Sure.
Now, qualifier here. Dream's not a god. He kind of doesn't fall into this category, I don't think. He is deific in a sense, by like embodying, being the embodiment of Dream, right?
Yeah.
Like, which is usually the quality you look for in how they define a god, is you actually like are kind of a living embodiment of that thing. We'll get into it. According to like strictly speaking, the Endless are a thing apart, a thing different. But this thing that Bokelman's describing is kind of interesting. So in the first volume of Sandman, it's maybe like issue 5 or 6 or something. We know him as Morpheus. He's also called Dream. We've already seen him appear differently to other people, but he goes and sees Martian Manhunter. And Martian Manhunter sees him as the god Lazoral.
Oh, okay.
The kind of dream god of Mars. And that's how he sees him. And says, "Oh my God, Lazoral." And he's like, "Well, Martian? I thought you guys were all God." Which is kind of interesting. So because he's a thing apart, he does kind of span cultures and things like that. It's this implication that he's all of Dream for every sentient being anywhere, which is really cool, really interesting. As far as gods, kind of the way we think about them, like pantheon gods, something like Rao for Krypton or whatever. The examples that we have seen of gods like Rao or Hronmir, they're not the same being as, say, like Apollo on Earth.
Yeah. Those
are different entities. They are both sun gods, but they're gods of different suns. I mean, that even on Earth, there are multiple sun gods.
Yeah.
So it's
stepson god.
No.
Stuck in this black hole.
Jesus Christ.
Stepson
what
god.
the fuck? Oh no. So no, I can't think of an example where one being is of kind of that tier is thought of that way. Again, the Endless are sort of this weird apart other thing. They mop up after gods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're separate.
Fair. Any others?
Well, no, I mean, the only one that would maybe do it is the Presence.
Sure.
I think it's safe to maybe assume that the Presence has, made an appearance on another planet where he's called, like, Clock 6 or something. Like, I think that's a reasonable assumption, even if it has not been canonically shown. Although it does make it kind of weird that so much of like, I mean, it actually doesn't make it weird. All of the religions in that like refer to that Abrahamic kind of God, the way the presence is portrayed, would just develop that way on Earth. Who knows what religions spring up based on that entity somewhere else. I think it's safe to assume that, although I cannot think of a time where it's actually been explicitly put out there.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next question from Braydon Ketty, who asks, Rao, Kryptonian god, red sun or both?
Oh, right. So Rao is the name of the sun around which Krypton orbited. It's also the name of their chief god, who is their sun god, like Apollo. It actually is both. Like the name of the star is Rao, but then there is also an entity who is the Kryptonian god, Rao. They're separate. But yeah, it always gets messy when you're talking about gods, especially in something like comics, where they're like, everyone's right.
Sure.
All your gods exist.
All your gods belong to us.
And it's not a thing like Bokelman's describing where it's like there is a sun god and each religion gave them a different name. It's like, no. They just like, there's different.
Yeah.
There's Ra and there's, Apollo and then Rao, obviously, for Krypton. It's weird because the god level thing is about kind of like being the thing you're the god of, not just having an ability connected to it, but actually like being like an aspect of that thing. But that doesn't mean that you are 100% that thing. Like the star Rao can exist without the god.
Okay, yeah.
But I would imagine not the other way around.
That makes sense.
Because Rao is the god of that sun. So if that star exploded, my assumption would be that that god would die. Would lose its power or whatever happens, That would be my reading of that, I think. Yeah, so in the case of that question, Rao refers to both.
Stepson god, the presence is going to be home soon. Come over here.
What? Really? You spent that whole time sitting quietly and that was what you gave me?
Oh, the stepson's going to explode.
You hear me, Warner Brothers? We will keep releasing this until you release Batgirl.
Do you like this? Yeah, neither do we. This is what you get.
Yeah. You sons of bitches.
All right, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
First question comes from our favorite religious representative.
Ooh, Chris Chan.
That's right, the one and only, who asks, which alien god or gods would you worship?
Ooh.
Darkseid.
Wow, you went straight to Darkseid. Really?
He is.
The god of evil?
He is.
That's you.
Yeah.
Wow. You didn't even think about that.
Well, why would I?
You're a man in a cable knit sweater, and you went right to the god of evil.
What more can you ask for?
Man, do you like if you were forced to choose one? Is that actually what your answer is?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. What's the best case scenario? I want to play this out. What's the best case scenario in you like praying to worshiping Darkseid?
Well, one, he's like, look, I don't need to give you the anti-life equation. You're already worshiping me.
Right.
Sweet. Hang out with me.
Yeah. Famously loves to chill.
Yeah. Why not? Somebody's got to like give him shit and drinks and stuff.
Yeah, he loves that too.
Yeah.
I feel like you may have misread the situation.
No. He fucking...
Darkseid just sent me a text that says anti-life and chill.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Stepson god.
No, stop with the... Good Lord. What the fuck is wrong with you?
so much. Yeah, I why not? What dark side is.
I mean, he's evil.
Yeah.
So you wanted to worship evil. You just want to play for like what you deem to be the winning team.
Yeah.
And you also deem that the winning team is evil.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Understood.
In this DC universe, yeah.
I was going to say Hranmir.
Sure.
Martian god of fire, of art, of war.
Sex?
Probably.
I know. Those are always mixed together.
There's also a Martian god called Serendil, who I think is something about like the joys and passions and stuff like that. I'm not sure if that covers Aphrodite territory or not.
Sure.
And then obviously there's Ulzoril, which is dream. But no, I think I would pick Hranmir. I like the idea of that very kind of primal thing where you're attaching both like violence and creativity to fire. Like that's the
creation. Fire.
Yeah, there's something very primordial about that. I could see myself going like, it feels like an older version of worship than like modern religion, where it's just like, I'm a dude, I created stuff. You're like almost. Even though Hranmir is a god, you're almost like worshiping at the altar of the idea more than the being, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a big difference between with a lot of things, I think I'd pick that one. Also, badass, like constantly on fire god is pretty cool.
Not as badass as Darkseid, but
I don't know. Darkseid doesn't have a curse named after him that wiped out the entire species that was praising him.
Fair. All right, next question comes from Kyle.
All right.
Who asks, are there any unique alien gods in the DC universe, or are they basically all cookie cutter copies of the Earth ones we already have?
Oh, like in terms of what they're the god of?
Yeah.
I mean, even on Earth, there are some kind of like primordial things, war, the hunt, the moon, the sun.
Sure.
Those things, you see it, they get rearranged in different combinations. One culture might ascribe the moon and the hunt together. Your hunter god is also the moon.
Yeah.
And another culture might be like, our hunter god is the sun. But you're still covering bases, like these. If you think of, worship and religion, I mean, you got to take, we're applying it the opposite way of how it exists in DC. In DC, gods exist and then people worship. In the real world, there are things we can't explain, and then we ascribe deities and powers and beings to those things to explain them.
Yeah.
So because of that, and because that's narratively what the comic book stuff is working off of, there's going to be a lot of sort of template things. What are the things we don't understand? How the sun rises and sets, or didn't understand. How the sun rises and sets. Where does the moon go? Why does it always change? Seasons, the ocean, all of these things are very kind of like base elemental, right? And so we end up in every culture with some version of gods for all of those. And since that's the framework we're working off of, a lot of when we encounter other gods or beings, even in fiction, even in DC, they also kind of match these things. Hranmir is its own combination of things, but it's still art, fire, war. Those are things that on Earth we have deities for too, right? So Mars isn't different that way. The idea that, Ra, sun god, we've got Apollo, we've got Ra, we've got, there's all sorts of sun gods on Earth.
You would think though, like based on like other planets, they would have they have different sort of like makeups. And so it's not like the reason we have fire gods because you can make fire here, but it's not like you need specific things to be able to make fire in other places. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I think if we were talking about like a real, like, intricately thought out sort of science fiction piece, that would be a thing to explore. Mm-hmm. But because we're mostly going to planets where people are vaguely humanoid, and we're mostly going to planets where something has to be recognizable, there are like jungles, and even though the leaves are a weird shape and color, we can still break them off and burn them to keep warm. Like the the rules maintain, are roughly the same.
Yeah.
And so because of that, so is the templates for gods, I would say.
Totally.
Now, we don't necessarily see a ton of alien gods. Probably the biggest concentration of them is the new gods.
Yeah.
I would argue that there are some different things for the new gods, but the new gods also sometimes like sidestep what they are the god of.
Like Darkseid is not like the god of thing.
I mean, I would argue Darkseid is the god of evil.
Yeah.
Light Ray is the god of light.
Sure.
But then there's other ones where it's like Kanto. What's Kanto the god of? And it's like, you could make an argument that he's got a sort of like bacchanalian quality to him. He likes wine and fine things,
sure.
But he's also a warrior in his own right. So again, things overlap in a weird way. Mr. Miracle is like the god of freedom. That almost certainly exists in a culture somewhere, but could I name a god of freedom right now? Yeah. Probably not. I think there are, Orion is the soldier god, very akin to a war god kind of thing. I think there are slight variations, slight tweaks, and I think some of them, and it's because they weren't necessarily laying them out that way either. You could go, what are they the god of? And you go like, like, is Highfather the god of good? No. I mean, definitively no.
Yeah.
So then you go, I want to see he's just the god of gods,
yeah,
kind of like Zeus-like, but not this. Or is he the god of the sky? Supertown float? Like, who knows? It almost doesn't matter. But I think the best way to think of it is that there's going to be kind of infinite combinations, right? In some cultures on Earth, you'll put war and the hunt together, or you'll put war and theater together, and that's a god. You go like, oh, they're the god of both of those things? And it feels weird, but there's a cultural reason for that.
Yeah.
I think you can apply the same thing in DC, where it's, Ra is a sun god, but maybe there's a different element to that than there is for Apollo or Ra.
Yeah.
One that I'm not thinking of, but maybe there's like another thing where he's the sun god and he's also the god of like science. You know what I mean? Because it's Krypton. Like, there could be other elements there too.
I like the idea of a god of science.
Well, Krypton is such a weird thing. Like, I mean, Krypton is a weird place that way. It actually, in some ways, I wonder if it and Vulcan kind of co-inspire each other as fictional properties. Because, again, Krypton, very science heavy. The Science Guild leads Krypton for a long time until Zod and the military guild try to take it over. But there's also a religious guild.
Yeah.
And they believe in gods. Ra is their god.
They also have proof, which is...
Well, I mean, Ra did exist. But in the time of Krypton when it's about to explode, I don't think he's around.
This is like a Buddha situation
because he's
where
not
he was
there.
Like there
he's not there to save it. This kind of comes up in the Brian Hitch run of JLA.
Sure.
Slightly, that I'm slightly misremembering. So he definitely exists, but it might not be a thing they can prove.
Sure.
But Krypton has this weird relationship of like heavily scientific and rational and also like very strong unified religion on that planet. In the way that Vulcans totally guided by logic, but then everything is like ritual and sacred and things like that. Those things aren't necessarily at cross purposes, but we don't see them that way.
Yeah.
We see logic as just like, you would just do it because it makes sense, not because it's a tradition with a thing. That feels illogical, So I think there's something interesting about a culture like that. And so I don't think it would be crazy to imagine that Ra is maybe also a god of science or a god of discovery or whatever they would call it, right? Or maybe they have a different god for that. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's leave Twitter and head on over to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
You got off beat there.
I do what I want.
That's what you don't
Release
say.
Batgirl.
I'm not holding her.
Release her.
No.
Oh,
never.
It's been Warner Brothers Discovery the whole time.
Darkseid is.
Oh my God.
Not releasing Batgirl.
Yeah. The anti-film equation.
All right, next question comes from Robbie's Just This Guy, who asks, do any alien pantheons recognize the Justice League as Earth's pantheon of gods?
Maybe not formally.
Sure.
But I think that comparison gets done a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes from the Earth perspective, but, you know, also if you go to another planet and you meet a god and they go like, oh my God, your fantastic powers. Surely you're the gods of your, you know, like, because Earth is also has that thing where it's like the metahuman thing is like kind of unique to Earth.
Really?
Other planets have people that develop powers that the rest of their planet doesn't have, but it doesn't happen with the frequency it does on Earth. That's the whole plot of Invasion, is that they're like, this metagene thing is like, they're a threat. We need to unite and wipe them out before it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
You know, Earth is pretty unique that way. So if you're a deity on another planet, then you just meet people with these crazy powers like the Justice League have. Yeah. There's no reason to assume, because all their powers are different too, there's no reason to assume the world is full of characters like that. You'd be like, I'm one of the only people with powers on my planet. Yeah. You must be gods as well.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I think that's a very reasonable assumption to make. Yeah, I mean, metaphorically, that comparison is made all the fucking time with the Justice League. And we do it too on a meta level when we talk about, you know, the differences between DC and Marvel and things like that. And, you know, we always talk about how like DC operates more like mythology and Marvel is more like, what if this person had this thing?
Yeah.
Someone else articulated it a slightly different way that is also not 100% accurate, but I think works, which is, you know, the ethos of Marvel Comics was more that you're reading a Peter Parker comic and he is Spider-Man. He happens to be Spider-Man, but you're reading a Peter Parker comic.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas you're reading a Wonder Woman comic. The fact that she is Diana Prince is secondary to her being Wonder Woman. And it's not about which one is, quote, real. It's not like who's the mask and who's not, but it's like the lens through which you're looking at. You're reading a Green Lantern, but are we really picking up and being like, I'm reading a Hal Jordan book? People like their different lanterns and they might be like, I love Hal. I can't believe he's in this book, but you're still reading it because you're reading Green Lantern adventures, not Hal Jordan's life and sometimes Green Lantern. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's the Marvel difference too. So you're reading Matt Murdock. You see all the shit that happens to him or whatever. Like, again, not 100% accurate, but a relatively good illustration, I would say. And so that metaphor of the Justice League as gods happens a lot because of that thing where we're talking about these like big archetypal mythic kind of pieces, you know?
All right, let's go to the next question from the Multi-Sanchez.
Nice.
I got there.
Nailed it.
Fine. Everything's fine.
Wow.
Do you want Batgirl? You're not going to get her this way.
So are you in charge?
I'll never tell. Multi-Sanchez asks, do any of the alien gods have cults on Earth? Do any humans worship Ra?
Great question.
Yeah, I like that.
Love that question. So let's start with Ra. In that Brian Hitch run of JLA, a run that I mostly don't like, there's a whole big thing about Ra comes to Earth, and he is Ra, and he's like, hey, I turned my back for a minute, and somebody blew fucking Krypton up. And he shows up and he starts giving like benevolent gifts to the people of Earth. And of course he wants like subservience. He's like, I'm a god. Why wouldn't you? Blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, very classic story.
Sort of bullshit.
But Ra shows up on Earth and starts just like, boom, solved your hunger crisis. Boom. Did like,
oh, wow.
You know, starts doing stuff like, so people on Earth are like, yeah, I'll fucking praise Ra, of course. It's not really a cult because the proof is right there. You know what I mean? The cult thing to me needs like the extra layer of like not a lot of contact, but people definitely worship Ra. I mean, the religion of crime on Earth, though it's about Cain and stuff like that, it has this like connection to Intergang, which has this connection to Apocalypse. There's this sort of like a tangential connection to anti-life and the worship of dark side. But it's kind of framed through Earth religion. That might be a slight weird example. Cobra worships the Kali Yuga, which is like the chaos thing, like chaos and destruction, that I think is meant to be vaguely Lovecraftian, like a sort of like the old ones kind of worship. So, the Cobra cult is like that. I think you can make the assumption that it's probably something not earthbound. There's a big one we should talk about. It's called Gog.
Okay.
Gog has this whole arc in Justice Society of America, which is a John's joint. And Gog is a old god from the third world. I think a later question will ask about those, and we'll go through it. But he basically at some point is trying to like escape a big battle of the old gods, and he falls through the bleed, and he lands on Earth and sort of gets like embedded in the Earth and like entombed in like lava or something. And just his kind of face sticks out from the planet. And it's in Africa, and so this the cultures around there start worshiping the face because they believe it's like the god of the earth sort of thing. Gog gets they don't know his history, so it's not quite like worshiping a deity from somewhere else, but he is literally not from Earth, and then has worshippers on Earth. He finally comes around, and like that other Rao story, it's the same sort of thing where he's like, and I'll start doing stuff like this. I just want your total obedience, and I'll do what I want because I'm a god. And they go, well, that's not good enough. He also has a very kind of punitive form of justice. That arc ties into a riff they do on Kingdom Come, where some of the same characters, like Magog,
show up. Yeah.
So Gog creates Magog on the main Earth,
okay.
and there's this thing about how do we deal with criminals? Do we execute the blah 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 blah, or do we pursue a more noble form of justice? So it's and the Kingdom Come Superman is in there too. He in that moment in Kingdom Come where the bomb goes off.
Yep.
In that moment, he's actually transported to Prime Earth. He spends a bunch of time with the Justice Society through this thing with Gog.
I do remember you telling me this.
And Magog, and then he gets transported back.
Yeah.
So they do a whole riff on Kingdom Come using this idea that this like extraterrestrial third world god crashed on Earth and had these followers and then was awoken and things like that. So that's a pretty big example of one on Earth is Gog.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, let's leave Instagram and head on over to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
First question and only question from Reddit comes from Draco Folly, who asks, does Superman actually believe in Rao? If not, is it weird for him to use him in swears? Great Rao!
I mean, now that he's met him and Rao is definitively real, he almost certainly believes in Rao.
I mean, yeah, I would hope.
But no, I don't think it's weird for him to say like great Rao or like to use it in that sort of like exclamatory sense. I say Jesus Christ all the time. I do not believe in.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he's historical, I don't believe in his mythic properties.
Yes, sure.
I say shit like that all the time.
Yeah.
I do think it's ingrained pretty culturally on Krypton. Again, this thing we talked about where they have the religious guild and they have like a unified kind of planet-wide religion.
He's not like, he didn't grow up in that.
It's not religion, but imagine in the way that it has for, atheists on Earth, Christianity in the Western world is so...
But he didn't grow up in it.
I celebrate Christmas. I don't believe in any of that shit. I celebrate Christmas. I say Jesus Christ. I don't have to believe in it. It's just culturally there.
Yeah, but he didn't grow up there.
But he knows of it, I know what you're saying. He didn't grow up saying it, but like he gets all those crystals. He learns all about it or whatever. Like, if you go on exchange for a month, you start like saying the phrases from the other country.
Sure,
I don't think it's a stretch to say that.
It's way he feels closer to his culture.
And he spends time with Supergirl, and she probably says it a lot more than he does because she did grow up there. I don't think it's a stretch that it becomes part of his
So when your friends go
verbiage.
to Barcelona and they start saying Barcelona.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was in
where you
Cuba.
When you live in France for a little bit and you go bio, like when you're thinking of things to say Very
funny.
You know, I think it's like that.
You're insufferable.
You're welcome.
Flirt all you want. I'm never gonna release it.
Wait, sorry. Hang on. Did you say you could fart all you want?
Flirt.
Oh, I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense. You can fart all you want, but I'll never release it. I was like, but a fart is the release.
Not the release we want.
Oh my god! Hashtag sweet release.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Hashtag last year of the podcast.
Hey, hashtag last year of the podcast.
Unless you don't release Batgirl, then we will keep going.
Yeah, this is what happens.
Found her out.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah. All right.
I was really worried nothing would happen. Yeah. We just have to end the podcast.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we'll bulk them in it. So pass it on to somebody else.
I don't think what happened.
That's what happened. That's how he got.
I don't think it was passed on to him. I imagine that it was a hostile takeover.
Yeah, it was.
I think he and Mark took it.
Podcast piracy.
Yeah,
nice.
I feel like I'm not making that up. I feel like that was kind of how it was told to me. A friendly, he took it over, but like he still took it over.
Keep digging.
I don't know. Bokeman, do you want another podcast?
All right, next question.
Come and take it from my cold dead hand.
Unless you do like a Indiana Jones swap for Batgirl, then.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
The movie. Let's leave Reddit. And
this metaphor is getting too convoluted for me.
Dockscord.
Oh. Ducks last, so scored. Even ducks in your score.
I feel like you've done this.
You were ducks for me, and I was scored for you. Yeah.
Nice. First question comes from Mullet Overlord, who asks, when... yeah.
I didn't mean for that to be... I was active listening.
Sure. Sure.
I didn't mean for it to come out like that.
Like fucking...
I was just active listening.
I don't care if we do this. We could not do this. Mullet Overlord asks if that's fine.
Sure. My chosen word. My word of power. That's what I say instead of Shazam. I just go, sure.
Sure. When is the last time anyone has actually done anything with Exal's the living god? Has it only been Wolfman who has written her?
Great question. So Exal is the god of Tamaran, where Starfire comes from.
Sure.
She uses it as an exclamation all the time. She goes, Exal! She's like always yelling it.
It's also a delicious Australian snack.
Exal?
No, tamarind.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's a tamarind.
Whatever, same thing.
It's not. Put some respect on Starfire's home planet.
Get my motherfucking Starfire.
Get my tamarind out your fucking mouth.
Yeah, this is still relevant of a joke.
Well, I don't know. We're months after it. We should release our apology for doing the joke.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's the thing?
I'm sorry just isn't sufficient. We shouldn't have done the Will Smith joke.
I do like that. I also don't know why you did that as a walk-in impression.
I wasn't trying to. You know.
We shouldn't have...
Go on, do your walk-in.
No, it's okay.
Had a real, like, gliving. Coming up is... Yeah, that's right. Bring it back to a voice you can do.
Hell yeah.
Casey Kasem.
That's right. Will Smith has done... I like the thing that people are like, Will Smith has apologized more than the Pope has for, like, the Catholic Church.
I mean, true. True. What the fuck was the question? Exal. Yeah. So I think there's like many things, there's a pre-New 52 and a New 52 kind of like origin of a bunch of things. And Exal is one of them. But I think in both cases, Exal is born mortal. I think maybe in the first one she was Okaran, which is a different planet in the Vega system. That's the planet where Larfleeze is with the orange lantern. We talked about Vega. That's that sector where the Green Lanterns were like, we don't patrol here, and it's
the Bloodhaven of space.
It's basically like it's like Tortuga. All the like the Spider Guild, all these like the Citadel is in there, all that kind of shit. I think in her original origin, she was from Okara, which is in that system. It's also the planet where Starfire and Blackfire were like, they were taken and brought to Okara and trained by the warlords of Okara and tortured, and that's where Starfire gets her Starbolt ability. Not all Tamaranians have that. And then in the New 52, I think Exile was Tamaranian, but in both cases she started mortal and then like ascended to godhood. The exact process by which I don't remember. But so Exile is slightly different from Rao or Apollo, which were just gods that kind of manifested and came to being, or Hronmir. But Exile kind of gets elevated.
Elevation.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Twice in 1 week.
Man, just kind of want to watch Tomb Raider.
Thing no one has ever said.
So yeah, that's Exile. But no, I mean, definitely has been used since the Wolfman like Teen Titans run. I think was in like the New 52 Red Hood and the Outlaws. You know, that was that one with Red Hood and Arsenal and Starfire.
Yeah.
Very sort of exploitatively drawn and written book, but Exile is in there. It has been used more recently. I'm not sure if the character's shown up more recently than that, but yeah, I think there was some Exile stuff even like in the interim, you know, like Starfire had adventures in space and stuff like that. Maybe not during the what's it called, Countdown to Adventure, that era, kind of pre-Final Crisis. She was back in space and having adventures. I'm not sure if Exile showed up there, actually. Do you know what religion did show up there? Is whichever one that Lobo becomes like the Pope of. It's weird. Lobo and his like space dolphin. And he ends up running this like pacifist religion for a bit until he very much does not. That's in that book.
Whatever religion like that he is a part of, they must the blood of Christ must be like Mountain Dew Code Red. Like
yeah, chug a bunch of Surge. That's your communion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, Exile is out there, a prominent character, kind of flawed character. I mean, like a lot of the way a lot of gods are depicted.
Sure.
But starts mortal and then elevates. Yeah.
Nice. Elevation.
Woohoo!
Next question comes from a but who asks, what are the requirements for someone to be categorized as a god in DC lore? The definition seems to be loose at best.
It is loose.
Nice.
I would also argue that it's not really a definition. You know, I don't think there's one kind of thing written on a wall somewhere in a DC office where they're like, that's what makes a god.
Sure. I mean, that'd be rad, but
I've talked about it a lot. I kind of have my own kind of rubric for it, which is that I think you need to actually be like an aspect of the thing that you're meant to be the god of.
Yeah.
That's my perspective on it. Lots of characters might refer to themselves as gods or things like that, but I think to truly be a deity, you kind of have to embody the thing. It needs to be, you can't just have the abilities of it. Black Lightning is not a lightning god, right? Like, he's not Raiden, you know, because he has lightning powers. You have to actually, like, even Electric Blue Superman, who was made of electricity, essentially, is not, in my mind, a lightning god. Because he's not like, I don't have a good way to put this. This is not concrete and won't help you or answer your question. But he's not like the essence of lightning. He can just be lightning and do what lightning does. It's not the same as like if lightning had a soul, you'd have to have a piece of that soul. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
You know, we can make lots of things that mimic stuff, mimic the way things move or operate or abilities they have. But unless it has like a piece of that like immaterial quality, it's like it's platonic ideal, like those kind of things. Unless you carry a piece of that in you, you're not a deity, right? So there's something about like Mr. Miracle. Let's use him as an example. Like I said, he's the new god of freedom. He is an escape artist. But is that why he is the god of freedom?
Or does he just happen to...
Or does he become an escape artist because it's his destiny?
Yeah.
Because he is, at his core, an aspect of freedom.
Yeah.
Could he never have been contained?
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of like the book, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think when you're treating the new gods that way, it's like Darkseid. Darkseid can, every once in a while there's a book where it's like, we have to team up with Darkseid.
Sure.
But Darkseid can't be good. Because Darkseid is the god of evil.
Yeah.
And in doing so, that's just in him. There is no redemption. There is no, there's manipulation and there's, mutual benefit and stuff like that. You can still do your stories where it's like it's Superman and Darkseid have to team up.
Sure.
But he doesn't change on a fundamental level.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of being a god too, is you don't change on a fundamental level. It's not to say you can't have some character growth or things like that, but if you are the thing, it affects you. I'll use an Earth example, which is in the New 52 for Wonder Woman. She at one point becomes the god of war, and it changes her.
Yeah.
It affects the people around her, like their aggression rises when she's around because it's just part of it.
Yeah.
And she does that thing that Hal Jordan tried to do when he was the Spectre, and that she tries to like steer her portfolio in a different direction, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
When you are elevated to or just born as the an aspect of this idea, you can't change that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to say your opinions or your personality or whatever can't change, but you kind of can't change that thing about you.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. It's not really a great definition. It's one of those things where like I can tell if I think it's being done
poorly
or well. It's very difficult for me to articulate because I also don't believe in much of the spiritual in real life.
Sure.
So to try and it's hard to extricate those things in words, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Next question comes from the real Josh Gill.
Ooh, sexy Gill.
That's right. Climbing up the charts.
Oh, step Josh.
Yeah. Stepson Josh.
No, why? Have you been watching a bunch of fucking stepmom porn lately?
I don't know.
I mean, you have.
It's the only type of porn out there.
It was coming through the Bluetooth speaker at the office.
I did accidentally do with music the other day.
Did you see that TikTok that I sent you? It really made me laugh. This guy changed his dad's ringtone to like
moaning,
porn sounds. And then she starts like calling his dad, and the wife is like, "What? You just doing that day in front of me? You disgust me. I'm done with you." She like leaves the room, and he's like, "I'm getting I don't know what's."
Such a good prank.
It's like full volume.
Such a good prank.
It's a really good prank.
It's a really good prank.
I really liked that.
I'm sad that it's been done because I can't do it.
Oh, you could do it to people that aren't on TikTok. I think that's the key.
Yeah, but who?
I don't know.
This is what I mean. Do it to like my business partner in a client meeting. Yeah,
maybe not. That directly affects you and me.
Yeah, all right. Fair.
Do it to your wife.
Yeah, that's right. She works for the city. It's fine.
I think she would also probably play it off the coolest.
I mean, that's the problem. It's less fun if
she'd be like, "Oh, I'm actually disappointed it's a call and not porn kicking up on my..."
And everyone would be like, "God, she's so cool."
Man. And then she'd like put on sunglasses and ride a motorcycle out of the building.
Yeah. People would be like, "I don't even know why she called this meeting."
Call the meeting to put on sunglasses and leave. That's a power move.
Josh asks, would they, some of the more popular ones, Rao, Exal, Hranmir, etc., fall into the idea of third world gods. Are they considered older than that? How do they compare in the power to some of the earthbound gods?
So, Rao and Hranmir, as far as I can tell, would kind of count as third world gods. Which basically there was this thing called the God Wave that spread out through the universe, and the God Wave basically was this kind of energy that allowed basically deities to form on other worlds. Before that, there were only gods in one kind of spot in the universe. The God Wave made these other gods. That's the third world.
Sure, okay.
And then the new gods are the fourth world. We'll get into why they're separate, but that's essentially it. So that means that before that, all of the gods had to be in one spot. So any god that is like tied to a planet or a solar system or something like that must therefore be the third world, right?
Okay.
So Hranmir, Martian god of fire, tied to Mars, tied to,
sure,
the worship there. So Hranmir and Cyrindel, and whichever there's like a hunter god or something, I think, that Steve Orlando created for that Martian Manhunter series, whose name I don't remember, but there's a couple of named Martian gods. Those are all third world gods. Rao on Krypton, third world god. Now Exal is elevated to godhood. Does that make her third world god? Probably. That's like saying like by marriage.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like in the way that's like some people get given godhood, bestowed godhood, and it becomes part of them or whatever. Don't ask me how to reconcile that with my answer to the last question. I can't. But in those cases, I guess like technically you're being brought into that club, that sort of echelon of god, but that's where it all starts breaking down around there. But as far as the power levels go, I mean, Hranmir, not overly powerful as a god because sort of doesn't have followers. Your followers aren't the only thing that determines your power, because the Olympian gods on Earth still have lots of power. Like who truly believes in the Olympians on Earth?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Anymore, yeah.
There's probably some people, but not many.
No,
but they still have power. Having no worshippers doesn't negate the fact that you're God. And that's the other piece, is that because you're part of that thing, as long as that thing exists, you still have power. But they do get amplified by belief.
Sure.
If there's a lot of belief, your power level goes up.
Yeah.
So I'd say Rao, extremely powerful when Rao comes to Earth, and especially after the first couple of miracles, having all of Earth then believe in Rao adds to that. But maybe right off the hop, is Apollo stronger? Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Although we also have canonical evidence that Superman is physically stronger than Apollo. Apollo has magic and godhood and all of these things, but Superman also beats the shit out of him because Apollo is a sun god of a yellow sun, and every time he hits Superman with
it just makes
his power, just makes him stronger.
Yeah.
Rao is different that way, being a red sun god.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Hranmir probably relatively weak. Hranmir did lend his powers to Shazam during Darkseid War. He became the H in Shazam. When Darkseid died, it severed some of the connections, caused this ripple effect, severed Shazam's connections to his usual patrons. And the wizard had to scramble and grab ones together. And it still has to spell Shazam, goddammit. And so there's a first world god called Sina. There's Hranmir. There's Ate, which is a lesser Greek god of impulse. So instead of having Mercury's speed, he has Ate's impulse. He had Zonus, which is another name for Yugakan, who is a third world god, the last of the third world gods, the father of Darkseid, and briefly gave Shazam source manipulation powers. But the Hranmir thing meant that Shazam got fire powers for a bit. Having these different patrons changed his power set, right? It's not just like you always get these powers no matter what. It's like because Hranmir was one of his patrons, he got like pyro powers, which is kind of cool.
Fucking rad, yeah.
And he had source manipulation powers from Zonus and stuff like that. So that's kind of neat. Exile, very powerful, but like I'd say lower tier than Rao or Hranmir. Yeah.
Dope.
And
but how do they do you think that like all of the gods, like the earthbound gods, are basically the same level?
No, because even among earthbound gods there's wild variations, right? And partly it depends on like what your portfolio is.
Sure.
Don't expect the god of wine to kick the shit out of the god of war.
Fair.
It's partly based on that. It's partly based on belief. It's partly based on they are also beings. So like, if you're rusty, you're rusty, whether or not you're powerful. Like they have that kind of thing to them too.
I want to think like the god of wine is like a Karen.
Well, that's the god of WHINE.
Yeah, no,
god of wine.
Like, I'm just thinking of like all of the like wine moms.
Oh,
like
yeah,
suburban like wine
it
moms.
Would, yeah, it'd be funny. I mean, someone on DeviantArt or Tumblr must have done this, but if you updated like the Olympians so that Bacchus has like it's wine o'clock magnet.
Yeah.
Like, it's very funny.
I like that.
I mean, because all of those power levels are variable, I think there's probably some Earth gods that are way more powerful than those other ones. And there's probably some alien gods that are way more powerful than other Earth gods. It just depends.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from Lilith. Oh my God.
Holy shit.
Who asks...
The final seal.
That's right. Yeah, there it is. Fuck, you got through it.
Nailed it.
Who asks, the terminology of fourth world / new gods implies a lot. What are the other three worlds? Who are the old gods? Are they the new gods of the fourth world, or are they are the two terms relatively unconnected?
All right. I'm going to do my best.
All right.
To do this.
This is like a Hawk situation.
I want to start off by giving the context of Jack Kirby left Marvel and came to DC to do Fourth World.
Yes.
After he pitched an idea for Thor that got rejected.
Yes.
So, with that context,
yes,
the first world was called God World, like an actual planet called God World, where the first deities existed. I think the planet or the world or whatever was called Ugrund. It's meant to basically be Asgard.
Okay.
Essentially. Or an Asgard. Because there's also like Asgard.
Yeah.
Right? And there's third world Asgard. But this is meant to be like an Asgard.
Sure.
It's called Ugrund or something like that.
Yeah.
So the very first deities that spring into existence are the first world gods. Eventually, the beings that inhabited God world that were not gods, some of them started developing powers or being elevated to godhood. That's more or less the second world. Sort of like Degrassi, the Next Generation.
Stay tuned for our Canadian Patreon.
When I think they blame it on Loki, spelled Lokee. Loki, one of the second world gods, has some manipulations. There's Wotan, who's obviously Odin. Basically, there's all this fighting and stuff like that, and a Ragnarok happens, and it destroys God world. And the destruction of God world creates the God wave, the thing I just talked about, that spreads out through the universe and basically imparts that like God energy across the universe. So now gods can spring up anywhere. That is the third world. That's where you get the Olympians. It's where you get Rao. It's where you get the Martian gods. It's where you get any of your pantheons That's where they come from. The Ragnarok exploded god world forms into 2 planets that become Apocalypse and New Genesis.
Sure.
There are third world gods there, including Yuga-Khan, Darkseid's father, and Hegra, and stuff like that. And when the old god, I mean, they really retcon this in the New 52 to it being a very, like, there's a real demarcation. But basically, when the old gods are overthrown / killed / their powers drained, and the new gods take up their energies, that's the fourth world. In the New 52, it was literally that, like, Darkseid started murdering old gods. That he and Isaiah, who become High Father, that they were like, he was tired of being underfoot, and where Isaiah was like, it's the will of the gods. Darkseid was like, I'm going to cut their throats when they sleep, and would do that kind of shit or whatever. So basically, the fourth world is all. There's a slight, like, you know, Titans, Olympians kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Where if you think of, like, the third world gods of New Genesis and Apocalypse as the Titans, and then they are overthrown by your Olympians, by your new gods, both on Apocalypse and New Genesis. That's where the fourth world comes from. That's roughly it. It is not, like,
perfect, yeah,
a defined system.
Sure.
Because then you say, like, well, what happens if the second world was just, like, regular beings elevated to godhood in the first world, and that was the second world? Then does that mean that being are there fourth world gods on Earth? People that are elevated to the third world god? And the answer is no. Yeah. Fourth world means New Genesis and Apocalypse.
Sure. It's
not like a very well defined thing. And part of that is because Kirby was making stuff in his own
bubble.
Yeah, technically connected to DC. The Forever People are on Earth and shit. Like, it wasn't not connected, but it was also like
its own thing.
He's in his own little bell jar there. So there's a few things that are happening there. So, in Final Crisis, they talk about bringing about the fifth world, right? The death of the new gods is the thing that precedes Final Crisis. All the new gods die, and their spirits start inhabiting mortal forms and all this. They talk about bringing the fifth world into existence, which
doesn't mean anything yet.
Doesn't mean anything now. Like, I'm sure Morrison had
a plan,
a bit of an idea of that.
Yeah.
But so many things get undone and redone, and, it kind of doesn't mean anything now.
Yeah.
But that's roughly the first through fourth worlds.
That was relatively painless.
I tried.
All right. Let's go to the next question from the Marvelous Ryan, who asks, aren't technically all gods non-Earth gods because they live in the sphere of the gods, which is outside of the multiverse?
Oh, I love a pedantic question. Yeah, if we take that, Morrison's map of the multiverse.
Yeah.
There's the orrery of worlds at the center, which is where all of the parallel Earths are. And then there's the sphere of the gods.
Yes.
Outside of that. And those are those realms that are like pan-multiversal. There is heaven and all 52 Earths. If you go to heaven, you go to heaven. Yeah. But it's also got that supernatural thing of, like, you don't just all hang out in one room.
Yeah.
You don't even all hang out in one room on your Earth's part of heaven.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's a way more complex metaphysical sort of thing than that. But strictly speaking, there aren't 52 heavens.
Yeah.
There is a heaven realm with a bunch of partitions and whatever your story reason is to keep things apart.
Sure.
Same with, so there's heaven and hell in the sphere of the gods. There's dream and nightmare. So sphere of the gods is also where the endless live, which I guess by just that terminology makes them gods. But again, I think there's something apart, although they do fit my criteria for godhood in that they are, like, in some ways, the most embodiment of their things. They're there. There's also, like, corners to their realm and stuff like that. There's also Skyland and Underworld, which are essentially the heavens and hells of like the non-Abrahamic faiths. That's where, the Elysian Fields would be, or Tartarus.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of Skyland is where Santa is canonically in DC.
Yeah.
And then there's also New Genesis and Apocalypse. And then the last piece is shit, I'm missing it. At any rate. So the Sphere of the Gods is where those things are. So because Skyland and Underworld are there, that's where you get your Underworld Olympians, your whatever. And what Ryan is pointing out is that the Sphere of the Gods is beyond the orrery of worlds. So therefore, are they not non-Earth things? The Sphere of the Gods is like the realm of ideas. It's conceptual.
Yeah.
This comes up in like that Justice League Dark book from the Rebirth era. The idea that like the land of Mira, where Nightmaster's sword comes from. It's a conceptual space. When they try to evacuate Mira to the physical plane, a bunch of the citizens just evaporate.
Oh, wow.
Because they don't exist.
Wow.
And so it's less of a physical place, and it's not like Apollo and them come from there. They've sort of like, I don't know a good way to put it. They exist on Earth. And then they create Olympus, and you call it a pocket dimension, call it whatever you want. But the idea of Olympus and the Elysian Fields and them kind of the concept of it gets pulled into the Sphere of the Gods. They all have to originate in the physical world for a concept to exist, and then the concept becomes its other thing. And they occupy a space in Skyland, along with the Olympians of all 51 other Earths, along with the Egyptian gods, along with Ra, along with, add all of them in there. So you're right, but you could also say that, like, even if they start there, they're born there, they die there, whatever, they are there for Earth. Yeah. They're Earth gods.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to being a god of something else, like Ra. Ra and Apollo are both chilling in the Sphere of the Gods. One of them is definitively an Earth god.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the definition still applies.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, next question comes from Only Just Dan again, who asks, do the emotional spectrum entities count as gods?
Ooh. Oh, you're going to trap me in my own shit.
Oh.
I mean, by my criteria, technically a little bit.
Oh, shit.
So the emotional entities, every color in the emotional spectrum has like a sentient living entity of that thing.
Sure.
Parallax is the one for fear. It's a giant yellow insect. It's made of the yellow fear energy.
Yeah,
It's not a being that gets a ring. It's not.
Yeah.
It is all the fear, which is what makes it so powerful. They take hosts, and that's what makes those characters so powerful, right? For the Red Lantern Corps, there's the Butcher, which is this sort of big kind of Toro sort of looking thing.
Oh yeah.
The orange lanterns have Ophidian, which is a snake kind of serpent kind of creature. Mm-hmm. Parallax is this big kind of insect thing. Ion is the green one. It's kind of like a big sort of cephalopod, like a big whale. Or sorry, not cephalopod, cetacean.
It's like, wait, hold on.
I got the wrong word. Cetacean, a big sort of whale-looking creature.
Sure.
The blue lanterns have... I'm going to have to come back to that one. I can't remember it.
Okay.
The indigo lanterns have proselyte. And I can't even... Oh, it kind of looks like a squid. And that's the compassion ones. And the star sapphires have the predator, which is itself a retcon of a Silver Age concept.
Sure.
Fuck, I can't remember the Blue Lantern one. That's gonna bug me. I could look it up, but
Why would we?
who could be bothered? So those things, they are the literal sentient embodiment of those ideas, which by my metric kind of makes them godly. I don't think they necessarily count as deities. I couldn't tell you why. Logically, for some reason, they're different to me. They do have their
They're
own
just celestial beings, like
yeah. I mean, they are sentient. They have plans in that, and they have ideas. You know, they're as mortal/immortal as any deity.
sure.
Oh man, I mean, I think I maybe have to concede that, like, technically, I guess they are,
Yeah.
but they're certainly not. Well, I mean, some of them are slightly revered that way.
Yeah.
You see the way Parallax is put on a
Totally.
pedestal for the Sinestro Corps, the way Ion is put on a pedestal for the Green Lanterns, even before they understood what Ion was, that it was, the entity in a host. You know, that was. You know what? Fuck it. Yes. The emotional entities are deities.
Look at that.
They are extraterrestrial gods.
There we go.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Fuck it.
He's busted this thing wide open.
Yeah, I'm going to bust this thing wide open.
Come in.
I'm going to bust. It's so much worse than I'm going to come.
Oh, I'm gonna nut.
Yeah, I was with you. I was like, it's such a vile way to describe it.
I'm gonna nut.
Nut is saying it like that, so gross. Saying I'm gonna bust, so gross. Bust a nut, double gross.
I'm about to bust a nut.
Just say you're coming like a normal person.
like an adult.
Yeah. Like someone with a mortgage.
I'm gonna come.
Yeah. I'm arriving.
Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Yo Crow, who asks, are there any non-Earth demigods born of non-Earth gods in the DC universe?
Oh, shit. Interesting. There must be. Well, shit.
I can't think of any.
I cannot think of any off the top of my head. All of demigods I can think of have an Earth connection.
Yeah.
Even if it's not the usual demigod thing of like one of the pantheons we know. You know, like Grail is the daughter of Darkseid and an Amazon.
Sure. So is it just like, Earth gods be fucking non-gods? Yeah.
Well, no, I guess they're saying, like, is there a half Daxamite?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Half,
is that only Earth gods are the ones who are...
I mean, those are the only ones we've seen.
Yeah. Have we ever?
Earth also has this is like a Star Trek thing, too, right? Where you go to another planet and they have, like, largely one culture.
Yes.
And even on Earth, even after the Federation and that, there's, like, it's different in France. And then, like, Cisco's like, in New Orleans, we do it like that.
Yes.
Like, Earth is so fractured. Like, it somehow, like, maintains all of its weird individuality and diversity and stuff like that in a way that every other planet doesn't. Like, the Vulcans don't go, like, on this island, there's none of that shit.
Yeah, we do more like this.
There's not, like, a planet of chill Klingons.
No.
Like, there's no cultural differences. And I think that same kind of thing, because we are on Earth, because our stories are anthrocentric, all of those kind of things. I think there is that thing of, like, we have so many pantheons on Earth, whereas the other planets, like I said, we've only named a few extraterrestrial gods, like Rao, Hronmir, Cyrindel, Exhal, Zonus. You know, we've talked about the new gods and that. We've talked about Gog. Mageddon is another one. Mageddon is interesting because, okay, this is not a demigod situation, but it's the closest I can get, but it is Earth connected. Mageddon is an old god in the way that Gog is. And Mageddon, though, like the stories of Mageddon influence Aztec belief in DC. They influence their belief, and then the Aztecs believe Mageddon. They call it Tezcatlipoca, which is the shadow god, and Quetzalcoatl is like the feathered serpent sun god, right? But Mageddon is real, and then the Aztecs are like, that thing's real. It's Tezcatlipoca. We just made a name for it. Here it is. And it becomes... this is also a roundabout way of getting to Bokelman's question, too. Where it's like, there actually isn't an earthbound Tezcatlipoca. There's not an Aztec shadow god and then also Mageddon. It's Mageddon comes to Earth, and they call Mageddon something different, and it influences their thing. But there is a Quetzalcoatl, which is kind of odd.
Weird.
And that's where Aztec, the ultimate man, that hero, their whole purpose, they have this suit that has fourth dimensional energy in it, and they have this helmet that has all of the memories and all the knowledge of every past Aztec. They're raised by the Q Society or the Q Foundation or whatever it's called. To, like, one day, Tezcatlipoca is going to come back.
Yeah.
And when Mageddon comes back, Aztec fulfills the prophecy, basically, by detonating his suit and dying and wounding Mageddon so badly that Superman can kind of take it out. But that is like... that is an alien god coming to Earth and influencing like the development of like a being, but it's not a demigod. But that's the closest I can get.
All right. Next question from Crimson Raven, who asks, are non-Earth gods literal beings who can be met in person, or more ethereal and removed from everyone? Or is it a bit of a mix bag depending on which planet / plane they are from? I mean, we already talked about Rao. Rao's been to Earth when people met him.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Kind of depends. You know, some gods are a lot more conceptual than other ones.
Sure.
I would argue that Hranmir, I don't know that Hranmir has ever really overly appeared in a very physical way. You know, like, we've seen Hranmir. Hranmir has been depicted.
Mm-hmm.
But largely, I think also because Martians are psionic, you know, if, like, there's always a telepathic element to it. When Shazam meets Hranmir, I'm not sure that I believe that's a physical meeting so much as something more metaphysical. Hranmir is probably more of a concept than a physical being.
Yeah.
Rao, very much like a being. Exile, a being. The emotional entities are physical beings. They could be trapped. They could be whatever. Even though they are the embodiment of these things, they have like a physical form. So I guess most of a lot of the ones that we've met are kind of that. But there's also an incorporeal element to them. So in Final Crisis, when the new gods are killed, their essence doesn't just go nowhere. Their bodies die and their essence starts inhabiting mortal forms, and it like burns through them because they can't be contained and stuff like that. But there is an incorporeal element to them as well. So technically, it's a little bit of both.
Well, look at that. Isn't that convenient?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, it's whatever you got to do for the story.
All right. Last question.
Okay.
Comes from the Jaffers himself.
Oh, my God.
Jaffe, who asks, questions specifically designed to make you suffer.
Oh, right. I forgot about this one.
What's the deal with the Titan seeds?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's where fucking Dick Grayson comes. The Titan seed.
Yeah.
He spilled the Titan seed.
Oops.
Oh no. Did you say something cool at least?
Oh, fuck Batman.
Whoopsie doopsies.
I didn't like that.
Oh, fuck Batman. Oh my god.
I don't like that. I don't like what happened here.
Oh my god, fuck Batman.
Jesus. No.
Oh, fuck Batman.
No.
Oh fuck
no.
Batman.
So
Step Batman.
Shut the fuck. So the Titan seeds.
Okay.
Interestingly, a thing that starts on Earth and then becomes alien. So the Titans of Greek myth.
Sure.
Cronus and Rhea and like the ones that the Olympians overthrow and lock in Tartarus or whatever. Those Titans get out through means I don't fully remember, but it does involve Lilith Clay, aka Omen, member of the Teen Titans.
Okay.
There's this thing where there's this whole namesake thing between the Titans and the Teen Titans from those comics. So the Titans get out, and the ones that are not causing trouble, they leave and they go to another planet or moon or something, and they form New Cronus. It was just their new home in space. And then in order to preserve their lineage, the Titan seeds are like extraterrestrial beings, I think either with some Titan in them or some god, like old god in them, and they bring them to New Cronus to raise them or whatever. And one of them is Donna Troy. And there's this whole retcon about like, and we named each of you after like a place of importance to your culture or something like shit like that. That's where she gets the name Donna Troy. And it made her like, that part of her story made her like part Titan. She was one of these Titan seeds, but other ones were just aliens. So it's like the Titans, who are old gods on Earth, went to space, and then other aliens. I guess maybe this is the answer. No, that doesn't answer the other question either. But there's some of these weird kind of demi old god thing happening. I really fucked that up. But Donna Troy is like, I would rather talk about the Hawks. I would rather talk about so many things than Donna Troy's history. This is one of several weird retcons to Donna Troy's origin. But yeah, it basically involves the Titans of our Greek myth going to space on a different planet, collecting alien babies who are vaguely connected to them, and they were called the Titan seeds. It was like part of their like legacy, their lineage. That's how they were going to keep Titans alive.
Okay.
Yeah. You see New Cronus in a bunch of comics. It's kind of got like sometimes it has a sort of MC Escher kind of shit going on, but it's like columns and shit in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I wish I didn't have to think about that at all. Because I'm definitely missing pieces there, but
that's it.
I think that's the broad strokes.
Well. Oh, fuck.
No, stop.
Speaking of broad strokes.
Jesus. Good Lord.
That was the last question. But we're not done yet because it's time to play everyone's favorite game.
Oh my God.
That's right. It's time to play everyone's favorite game. Can you guess the name of the character based on someone who does not read comic books? Can describe that character to us.
Oh, you did that okay.
Did you do it when you...
Yeah. I did a great job, too.
Who made the clues up?
My wife.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I delivered them.
Yeah, I know how the game works.
Yeah. Because I was kind of the you.
Yeah?
I didn't like it. I don't like being you.
But someone's got to be, as you can see.
I mean, and that's why you could never die.
Yeah. Because you want to be you.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
Heavy is the head that wear the crown.
Sure. Sure.
Okay. Sure. Unlimited power. If you don't know how this game works, I send a photo of a DC character to my wife, who does not read comic books, nor does she care for them.
Okay.
She sends back 4 clues describing what she sees. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm as ready as I ever am.
That's the kind of confidence I look for.
Yeah, baby.
First clue, chest abs.
Chest abs. I mean, that could just be the way it's drawn. This is just like a Liefeld drawing or something. That doesn't help me at all. It could just be someone bad at drawing pecs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want another clue already.
All right, clue number 2. Wispy mustache.
Wispy mustache and chest abs. Sinestro.
No.
A wispy mustache.
Wispy mustache.
Wispy mustache.
That's correct.
Hector Hammond?
No.
No, he's the opposite of abs.
No.
He's all brain and no.
Yeah.
Next clue.
3rd clue. Bicycle seat hat.
Oh, is it Mr. Twister?
No. Mr. Twister.
Mr. Twister.
The times have come.
And you know you're not the only one
to say.
Okay, a bicycle seat hat.
That's right. A wispy mustache.
Wispy mustache and chest
abs.
Abs. There's not like there's not some sort of like the frontiersman. Or I'm trying to think of like something vaguely like like Washington era.
No,
kind of like one of those kind of characters.
No.
Last clue.
Final clue. Victorian Joker.
So it is kind of that Victorian. Okay, hang on. Hang on. Hang on. Chest abs, wispy mustache, Victorian Joker. You've been watching a lot of Harley Quinn lately. This is whatever the fuck Alfred is when they all go out to fight crime as the Bat Family.
What's his name?
And his name is... shit. Son of a bitch. It's the... He's not the ferryman.
No.
No, he's the courtier. No, he's the nobleman.
No, it's nothing like that.
Fuck, it's the shit. He's like powdered wig, Louis the 15th fucking get up. He rides the penny farthing. And
There's
shit.
a very specific way to get his name.
I know. Hang on. This is worse.
Knowing what it is,
knowing exactly what it is and not getting the name is so much worse.
It's right there.
Would you shut the fuck up?
Fuck Batman.
Stop. Jesus Christ. Hang on.
No.
It's not the...
No.
He has like an old-timey name, though, right?
Not really.
No?
No. Do you want me to tell you how to get it?
Buttling?
Do you want me to tell you how to get it?
Sure.
You get his name by putting a feather in his hat.
Oh,
and call it
Yankee Doodle? Or
yeah, but what's the end of
macaroni?
That's right.
Fuck, yeah. Shit. Son of a bitch.
I fucking love it so much.
Fuck.
It's got arms coming out of the hair and everything.
I mean, very, very funny, like, part of that show.
I love it so much.
I'm very angry. I'm angry about exactly knowing the right answer, but not knowing
I can see when it got in your head. You're like, wait, he's been watching that fucking show.
Fuck. Ugh.
The second I heard it, I was like, oh, that's a clue.
Yep, write that down.
That's a character we're doing.
Well, shit.
Were any of you able to guess macaroni?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to send...
I'll let Josh, who's the guardian of the results, decide whether or not I got that or if it was a push. So I did say macaroni without you saying it to me.
Sort of. I had to literally like put a jelly bean.
I'll let Josh decide.
Okay.
Josh can decide. I trust him. to decide that I got it or maybe that it was a push.
All right. Maybe you want to send in a question for next week's episode?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a thing we could do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't really figured out.
We do this every week.
Oh, no. I've got weeks wrong. So I don't have.
Oh, whoa. It's been a while.
I actually don't have one queued up because I got weeks wrong. I thought my dad was coming to town earlier than he is.
Doopsies.
Yeah. So I will think of one and then you'll see when the post goes
up. Where you will see that that push for questions is in our social media platforms.
That's right.
Like our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Our Twitter,
@Dr. DC.
Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Our subreddit,
r/Dr_DC.
The doc phone is a place where you could always send those clues.
208-917-3238.
That's right, 208-917-DCEU.
If you're nasty.
We're young and cool. We're on TikTok.
@Dr. DC.
We really need to change the platform of our website.
drdcpodcast.com.ca.
That's right. Why don't you give us a 5-star review and we will read it on a future episode of the podcast.
Right, we will.
We are getting dangerously close to the TV show of Lord of the Rings being released, and we are not yet at a point where we can do that.
Make it happen.
Series, so.
Make it happen in the way it was meant to at 100.
Yeah, get us there.
Get me there.
Fuck
Batman.
Fuck.
Get me there, Batman.
And we will read that review on a future episode of this show. We also like to get some physical mail.
Yeah, 301 Hogue Street, Hoge Street in Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada, Y1A 1V8. You can send them to either Richard Eden or Reed Vanier.
Yeah, whatever one's easier
at
to spell.
About those levels of excitement.
Also, if you want to just give us money,
money, please.
Yeah, you can do so through our fucking Patreon, and what a month to do it.
Oh yeah, it's Eatgist, baby. Patreon.com/DrDC. There's a $1, $5, $7 level. They all give you access to the Doc Squad, our awesome fan community. But again, it's Eatgist. It's our annual month of eating. This year, every week, at the higher levels, there's a double dose episode where we're going through different Canadian foods. That's our big theme.
Oh, Patreon.
Oh,
nice. Give $5 for eats.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then there's theme polls, other fun stuff. It all helps to support us. But yeah, maybe the biggest month of the year on Patreon.
The most important month of every culture, I think.
Eatgist.
That's right. It wouldn't be so important if it didn't have such an important name.
Yeah, I mean it's better than July Italian month.
Yeah, what's this? August. Hold on.
Nope, I don't like this.
August.
I mean, I'm just glad that we went to food and not like it's not Hugust or something. Eatgist is fine.
It's Nutgist. Time to bust a Nutgist.
Eat bust. Oh, no, wait. That's too many. Og bust is what I was trying to do. Yeah. And I just put too many layers to it.
Eat bust. Batman.
Jesus.
Time to eat bust, Batman.
Why does anybody listen to this?
I don't know. But
do you hear me, Warner Brothers? If you don't release Batgirl, we're going to keep doing this.
Yeah. But you have no say over our other podcast.
Ghostfacers, a Supernatural rewatch. We are going through every single episode of the CW Supernatural. We talk real world monster lore, behind the scenes stuff about the show. We are most of the way through season 5.
That's right. We are fucking torpedoing to season 6.
I'm not the way I'd phrase it.
We're gonna bust a season 6 all over you,
Jesus. Good Lord. It's a lot of fun over there, though, so go check that out. Both of those shows have been nominated for Canadian Podcast Awards.
Insane. Again.
Dr. DC nominated this year for Outstanding Comedy Series. Ghostfacers nominated for Outstanding TV and Film Series. If you are a Canadian podcaster, you can go to canpodawards.ca and you can vote, I think, up until August 11th.
Yeah, baby.
And also, hey, while you're just like out on the internet, go to Apple, go to Spotify, and look up Stand Up North, Shredded and Dead. That's the album of Yukon comedians that Just for Laughs recorded
you are
up here.
It.
And I might know something. Yeah. Tracks 15 to 17.
Yeah, it's the ones with the stars.
You'll see them. Can't miss it.
All right, that is it for this week. Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure, they are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.
Fuck Batman. Oh.
Sure.